Davis. High vibe music. Did that not speak to your heart? Yes. All right. So we have another very, very special guest, something very special for us. I know then that Dr. Keith is so excited to have her here. This is our guest speaker, Reverend Karen Frost. We are kind of sort of homies. She grew up in Chicago. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. So, but at any rate, she is a staff minister at Global Truth Center, and I know that they are so happy to have her there. She is an amazingly exciting and inspiring speaker, which I know from the magic of YouTube. So I'm so excited then to welcome here Reverend Karen Frost.
Hello. I am so happy to be here, and not just because I've been here before. I've been to the other location at in the one in Hollywood before you moved over here. So I loved you before, but on top of that, I actually got the opportunity to sing backup for Ray Davis a couple of times. I sang backup on, I'm blanking on one of the songs, but Get Ready to Get was the other one, and there's this wow, 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 is like in this song as backup. It's so cool. So it's an honor to be a part of this service with him. And for me, this month, the theme of this month is accountability. And I've had this amazing opportunity to really experience that lesson in accountability. I had a bit of a tough week. And as a minister, it's my job to remember love. I'm supposed to remember love all the time. I didn't actually forget, but it just wasn't feeling, it wasn't resonating with me. I was really focused on external things that were happening in my life and really wasn't focusing on what I needed to focus on. My wife and I call it being stank. So, and when I'm stank to her and she's stank back to me, and we just kind of have this stank exchange. And I would love to say that I'm the one who says, okay, let's go back to love. But she's got this thing, my wife Ronnie has a reset button. When she goes to sleep, she wakes up just perky, ready to go, doesn't matter what happened yesterday. And so I have to be the one to say, okay, she's being accountable to her word. She's remembering to love right now, regardless of what happened yesterday. And I know I'm speaking, so I'm saying I need to be better at this, but I'm just in my head. And what was so great, knowing Ray Davis was here, knowing he's singing the song, I listened to the song over and over again, over and over again. What sort of led to this disconnection with me is I work at CAA, it's this huge Hollywood talent agency, and I've been there for a year. And the way the company works is when you're there for a year, you get to move on to whatever department that you want. So I've been able to, I finished my ministerial license at the very same time that I started at CAA. It was like a week apart. And it was really perfect because I really got to bring in love to that experience. And it's a challenging environment. So it was really nice to not only serve as love, but remind others to serve as love. And it's the kind of place that one doesn't think of Hollywood talent agency as being the most loving environment in the world. But it was always, the way love works is it's powerful enough that regardless of the energy, the atmosphere that you're in, love is powerful enough to really transform everything around me. And so I've had a really good year, but now my year is coming up and they're saying, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? There's nothing open where I want to go right now. And so I've been looking other places. But as the song over and over again says, I was trying to fit in. I felt like I needed to know all the right people and do all of the right things. And so being in this interview process, I've been thinking about what do I need to do better? And I've been quiet. I've been retreating in instead of really expressing myself. And it's interesting because as a half black, half Jewish lesbian, usually I don't even try to fit in. I know it's just not a possibility. I learned this lesson a long time ago. And so, but what's happened, honestly, is Los Angeles is so diverse, and the experience is so diverse that it didn't feel like I had to fit in. I felt like I was really accepted for who I was. But in Hollywood, there are certain rules in Hollywood, and the idea is you follow these rules. Hollywood has its own language. There are all of these things that you have to do these things right to get to know all the right people and be able to get that opportunity that comes next. And so I just was in my head. But I realized, because the theme of this month is accountability, I need to be accountable. I need to remember that the power of love itself is more powerful than anything out there. And I get this song. Ray Davis, they're selling CDs. I strongly recommend buying those CDs. Because it was everything that I needed to remind myself to be accountable to my word, but also recognize that when we're accountable to our word, when we choose to be accountable to love, not only do we get to experience greater joy, love, peace, prosperity in our own lives, but we invite others to do the same. I love there's this message up here. With you is the fountain of life. By your light do we see light. We must remain accountable to express our light, to shine our light, to remember that the power of love itself expresses as us. Because every time we forget, not only is that money coming out of our pockets, it just doesn't feel good. And what's the point of life if it doesn't feel good? What are we living it for? So this week, actually yesterday, when I came across the news about London, I saw a lot of people on Facebook really expressing their concern. And I get that. I understand that when there's a terrorism attack someplace, it's easy for us to feel unsafe. It's easy for us to feel uncertain. But what I find interesting is I think about the fact that there was a terrorist attack in the Philippines last week. Nobody talked about that. I didn't see anything about that on Facebook. I recently went to a screening of this movie called City of Joy, and it was about women in the Congo, where I was completely unaware of this. I will openly admit the only reason I went to this screening is because Kerry Washington was going to be there. And I love Scandal. I'm a huge fan of Scandal. Loves Kerry Washington. I did get to meet her afterwards. It completely made my life. But it was a Friday night, and the last thing that I wanted to do on a Friday night was watch a movie about tragedy in the Congo. Like, that's just not how I like to spend my Friday nights. I want to live a life of joy, but Kerry Washington was going to be there, so I had to go. And it's in my building. I work on the 3rd floor. The theater's on the 2nd floor. It was directly after work. There was wine and cheese. And for me, a life of joy involves both wine and cheese. So I went to this movie, and this film, and I'd recommend Googling it. City of Joy is what it's called. There was no distribution. The whole purpose of Kerry Washington she did a Q&A with the filmmaker, Eve Ensler, who wrote and directed the Vagina Monologues. So she was doing a Q&A afterwards, but the whole purpose of the event was really to try and get distribution and visibility for this film, because they were having a hard time selling it. And one of the best ways to do that is for a talent agency to have a screening, invite everybody that they know and say, hey, everybody, pick up this movie. So I don't know if it's going to be picked up, but if you Google it and support it, maybe that'll help, because the power of love supersedes everything, doesn't it? So in the movie, they talk about how there's this serious war that's been going on for about 12 years that I knew nothing about. Has anybody ever seen the movie Hotel Rwanda? So in the movie Hotel Rwanda, it was just about this civil war that was happening in Rwanda, and essentially after that was resolved, all of those people went to the Congo. So the same thing that was happening in Rwanda is literally happening in the Congo right now, but nobody is talking about it. And the thing that makes it significant to us, the reason why it's related, other than the fact that we're all one, is because this iPad, the reason that this iPad gets to exist is because of those minerals in the Congo. And what's happening with the way that women are being treated, being the outcome of war, they're experiencing significant atrocities that I'm not going to get into on a Sunday morning. But what's remarkable about this movie is Eve Ensler helped build this city. The city is called the City of Joy, which is why the documentary is called The City of Joy. And in this city, these women really learn how to reconnect with joy, to forgive their attackers, to really embody all of these principles and recognize that love is all there is. And so regardless of what has happened in their lives, not only are they learning they're learning self-defense so that it doesn't happen again, or they can protect themselves if something comes up, but on top of that, they are taking these lessons of joy and bringing them back into their communities. So it's this idea that even though atrocities happen all the time, love has the power to supersede all of it. But it's our responsibility to remain accountable to love. Because not only do we get to live greater love, joy, prosperity in our own lives, but we allow and inspire other people to do the same. I would say that it's our greatest responsibility. And I would say that the reason that I even chose to be a minister is not only to really commit myself to this and submerge it, but to really have a platform and an opportunity to remind everyone in every occasion that I get that when we choose love, we get to experience a greater experience. And every time that we shine our light, with you, the fountain of life, our light, we see light. Other people get to experience light and appreciate that. So I was mentioning Ray Davis's song, Get Ready to Get, that I got to sing backup for, that they do that, wow, wow, wow. I don't think there's backup today. Maybe I'll just do it in my seat. But but in the song, he says, you got the right to be happy, and you got the right to be blue. And you do. We have free will. It is completely our right to be happy or to be blue. And I chose to spend some of this week being stank. That's the word I would use. But it was my right. And what happens when I choose to be stank is I just have this whole experience of stankness. My wife and I do not get to experience the greatness of joy every time I choose to be stank. And to be honest, I'd mentioned this before I got here, that we got married the same week that we moved to Los Angeles. And our first year of marriage was probably literally I shouldn't say literally, figuratively a train wreck. And so I really dove into this experience because I'm saying this is not working. I need to figure this out because we love each other too much. We've got to be able to work this out. So I really dove into this experience, the spiritual experience, to identify what I can do to change the atmosphere, the energy of the relationship, and really learn how to focus on love more. And so when I'm stank, I'm the one who derails everything because, like I said, she has a reset button. She's going to wake up in the morning, everything is going to be fine. So anytime anybody's bringing negative energy into the relationship, it's going to be me. So it is, I see it as I need to be accountable to what I stand for, not only for my marriage, but I have to do it for all of you. But the beauty of this is that every time I choose to be blue, I get to remember again that I have the right to be happy. I get to remember again to choose love. I get to have a fun story to tell you on Sunday morning about having been stank all week. But then turn around and remember that I get to make a new choice right now. But I understand that there are distractions. There's a reason that I'm committed, submerged in this, but I allow myself to get distracted by what happens in London or what's happening in Chicago pretty much every weekend. It's easy for me to focus on trying to make the rent, trying to get this job, trying to do this and that, and having it not happen. It's very easy to get distracted by those things. But I would say that love is my favorite underdog because it's always going to win. We say this all the time, love wins. There's a hashtag love wins for a reason. I love that Pride Weekend is coming up soon. But love will always win. And so it doesn't actually need us, but we have this opportunity to remember it and express it. And it's funny, I know when I say that, when I think of love doesn't need us, I think of the Ricky Byers song, God needs us clap, clap, to shine its light. But I'm not throwing shade at Ricky for this line. Because in a way, God does need us to shine its light. There's nothing to shine if we're not here to do it. So it's a relationship between us shining our light. The other thing I wanted to say real quick about London is one of the reasons that I think it scares us is it feels close, even though it's so funny because literally it's across the pond. It's nowhere near us. So it's this idea of if it happens there, it could happen here. That's why that story goes viral as opposed to the Philippines or the Congo, because there's this idea of those things could never happen here. But London, that can happen here. When something like that happens, it gives us an opportunity to have gratitude for how safe we are. To have gratitude that what's happening in the Philippines and the Congo is nothing that ever could happen here. The fact that something that is across the pond can worry us. It demonstrates just how safe we are and just how easy it is for us to take our safety for granted. On my way here, I didn't have any concern or worry about the travel time, even though I literally live a mile and a half away. There was no concern about, I don't live in a war zone. It's very easy for me to get here and not think twice about the gratitude for having a vehicle, even though clearly I could have walked, even though I had a vehicle to get me here and get me here on time. But we're safe. We're safe from the elements, and there are so many things that we can easily take for granted. Indoor plumbing. So grateful for indoor plumbing. Ernest Holmes said, "Man does not exist for the purpose of making an impression on his environment. It is quite a burden lifted when we realize that we do not have to move the world. It is going to move anyway." So technically, one can say that we have to be accountable to love just for the sake of love not being strong enough or love not needing us. It's still going to be here. It's still going to express itself. But he goes on to say, it does not lessen our duty or our social obligation. It clarifies it. It enables us to do it joyously. So, in the song, Get Ready to Get, Ray Davis he'll probably sing it later, I don't know. But in this song, Get Ready to Get, he talks about really when you have faith and trust that this is what happens, that this is how love works, that this is the power and energy of love itself, you can get ready to get whatever it is that you want, whether it's a better job, whether it's more money, wherever kind of environment that you're in, you can attract a new experience when you choose to live joyously. But it's your job to make a decision of whether you want to be accountable to this or not. And when I think about accountability, at first, I was just thinking about it from the context of productivity. Personally, I watch a lot of TV, which is easy for me to justify because I work in television. But I was thinking about, since I've been doing a lot of ministry work and I've been doing all of this interviewing, just so much work in regards to what happens next, I made a decision that I was going to give up TV for a month, which felt kind of risky. People in television expect me to watch television. I should know what's going on. And in fact, like my wife, Ronnie, was saying, can I turn on the TV? Just because I'm giving up TV doesn't mean you have to. So I enjoyed House of Cards yesterday, even though I gave up TV. I didn't leave the room. But I thought about it in accountability of sometimes when you're making a decision, whether you're saying living a life of joy means that I drink a lot of wine, eat a lot of cheese, and it's starting to show up on my hips. You have to identify that balance of wine, cheese, exercise. If you want to cut down on wine and cheese, it's up to you, but it's really about what your joy looks like. But when we choose to live from that place, we get to experience it. We invite others to do the same. So we can forgive ourselves for being distracted by forgetting of the power of love. But I love that you do this candle service here, having this calm, being reminded every single week to connect to calm, to connect to peace, to connect to all of these candles. But in this brand new moment, this healing candle, this is why it's in the middle, I imagine, this is a brand new moment. We get to decide right now to click this little button on at the bottom. Isn't technology amazing? To click this button at the bottom, and it's just that easy. As a click of a button, you have the right to be happy. So if you're blue, make that decision. Click that button on that candle. Choose to be accountable for what's happening in your life and make the decision to remember love again. So let's make a decision right now to do it in prayer, shall we? Wonderful. I invite you to just get comfortable. Taking a moment just to let go of everything that came before this moment. Recognizing the power itself of love, of light, of spirit, that expresses as each one of us individually. That power of love that always resides within us, whether we forget or not. It's always here to tap us on our shoulder, or maybe scream it loud on a billboard on Santa Monica Boulevard. Love is always here, always expressing ourselves. And we have the divine responsibility and opportunity to choose to be accountable to that love that expresses as us. We have the divine opportunity to remember